Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dafa discussions. Hey Louis, how are you?
Hey Michael, I'm good, thank you.
Guys, we've got a big apology. Last week's episode, which was supposed to be kind of a part one of a two-part, for some reason on Ganjing World, isn't playing properly. So you guys from Ganjing, humble apology. What we're going to do today actually is what we had planned to be part two. So some of you will see this as part two, some as part one. And once we organise what's going on with part one, we'll get that uploaded for you too. Now, before we go into what we were going to talk about in our DAFA discussions, both Louis and I have had the experience again, which we do pretty much every year, of working with the most incredible theatrical production that's probably on the globe at the moment, called Shen Yun. Now, you'll see a bit of it here. Um, now, as you guys know from what we've spoken about, the Chinese government has always been trying to interfere with and also defame or demonize, like it does with everything it puts its hands on, Shen Yun. And as we'd mentioned before, they're doing that because the founders of Shen Yun, the beautiful, I think it was about, I think I remember back, oh, geez, this was a while ago, maybe 2004. There were three professional dancers from China who were seriously persecuted, like all other Falun Dafa practitioners in China. And when they came out of China, they decided that the true Chinese culture, which includes all of the divine and beautiful spiritual principles of China's 5,000 year culture, should be brought back to the world, to the rest of the world, not just to China. And so they developed, with all of their muster, this incredible production. And over the time that it has been forming, naturally, it has been very much appreciated by the rest of the world, except people in China who are either, still believing what the communist government has taught them, or, the Communist Party directly. Now, you'd think, obviously, that bringing back all the beauty of the Chinese culture wouldn't be a problem. With the people who founded Shen Yun, they also at the same time want to expose the massive genocidal persecution that they went through and all other Falun Gong practitioners went through in China and are still going through. So there are pieces within the production that actually show what is happening to these poor people in China. So naturally, the Chinese government, as Shen Yun has become incredibly and globally popular now, not only for the fact of what it's doing, but also the caliber of the production is the absolute top of the top in the theatrical world. Um, the Chinese government naturally is terrified because there's millions upon millions of people going to see Shen Yun, absolutely loving it, but at the same time having the truth told about this persecution. So that's more than enough for the CCP to fear. Now, Louis and I, as you guys may know, we live in the same area. And being Falun Dafa practitioners, we are actually connected to Shen Yun simply by the mere fact that Falun Gong practitioners created Shen Yun. And so we've over the years since it started, we've always given our time to it because one, it's such a worthy production. It brings back the most incredible moral principles that we've missed for so, so long. It does it in a way that is stunning, positive, and beautiful, and in the most high caliber way of dance and music. It's got a full orchestra in there. And also, as they have formed, when you become part of this gorgeous thing, it's a bit hard to let it go because it's quite an experience. Just being there and helping them out is wonderful. And of course, they're all Falun Gong practitioners in there, so they're wonderful, wonderful people, hardworking. Now, um, both Louis and I were there for the Gold Coast production. And so, Louis, tell us all about your experience there and what you were doing.
Yeah, it was great. Well, I not only got to see the show, but I was also helping with the interviews. You probably may have seen on the Shen Yun website or their channel, they have interviews with people sharing their experiences. Um, yeah, and I got to hear what people had to say, what their experience was, which was really special. Um, and there was one couple in particular who were from all the way from America, actually, and they were part of a church. And as if you've
What
ever
were
seen
what religion were they from, both?
the Church of Jesus Christ,
That's right.
yeah, um, yeah, and if you've ever seen the show, you probably know it's quite a spiritual show as much as it is a beautiful traditional Chinese cultural show as well. So they resonate very deeply with the kind of spiritual aspects of it, and that was quite moving. Yeah, and for me personally, just seeing the show is really amazing and inspiring. All the stories and of Buddhist monks and cultivating, very inspiring and even funny. Um, yeah, it was a really good experience, and yeah, I'm glad I had a chance to help out.
Yeah, remembering the thing that everyone, the thing that gets me with Shen Yun is, and this is what also um, I find with Falun Dafa is that Falun Dafa is so broad because Mr. Li Hongzhi's teaching is actually centers on the moral component of teaching a spiritual way, and it Falun Dafa is so embracing to all of those beautiful spiritual elements. And people see it. People see it when they're watching Shen Yun. Um, I did security. So I do security there when they come to this region of the world. Most times I'm there doing security with them. And of course, John, who heads the security every year, he was like, everyone head on a swivel. Because in America, as Louis and I have mentioned, the Chinese government, as a direct directive from their premier, Xi Jinping, has ramped up around the world their persecution of Shen Yun and Falun Dafa and the people of Falun Dafa. And so in America, at the moment, they're getting CCP people, basically, to follow Shen Yun around America, and whichever theatre it goes to, they write to the theatre with bomb threats and mass shooting threats. If you show Shen Yun, there is a bomb set in the building. I think we've got links. We've got links in our collections, the collections part of our channel, that show you the actual emails that they're sending. Remember, what Louis and I are talking about is the real deal. Of course, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this, because we've got, as a group of Buddhist school spiritual people, we have the Chinese government that is trying to destroy the practice, both physically and demonize it. So, you might think, why are these two boys here doing this? That's why. Is because if we allow this communist regime to do this to a beautiful spiritual practice, we couldn't live with ourselves. It'd be awful. So they're doing that in America, and they've well and truly ramped it up. Like the scale of it's ridiculous between the phone calls that are going in and the emails that they're being sent. And so basically, we're waiting for that around the world. And thank goodness we had nothing here, nothing, not even a whisper of anything, which was lovely. But when I'm doing security, I'm normally on the balcony level of the theatre. And my most memorable part of it, other than the fact, like, well, the smile on Louis's face said it all about the monks, because the each piece of the production is so beautiful, yes, but at the same time, it embraces everything that is truly spiritual from the other spiritual practices as well. And of course, there's lots of beautiful, cheeky comedy in there as well, about what monks really get up to in the monasteries when they're trying to deter each other and test each other. It's actually quite hilarious. It's beautiful and hilarious. So in the intermission, a man walks up to me. He would have been in his 80s, maybe in his mid to late 80s, and I've had many quite incredible experiences with people, I think, who just watch the show and they just know. They know that they realize that everything that's being brought into the show is simply the beauty of true spirituality. It's not about, everyone has to practice Falun Dafa. No. It's truly bringing back all of the true elements of true spiritual cultivation, which is stunning. And also broad for every single human being. So anyway, he walks up and we make eye contact and he says to me, I can't remember the country he said, to be honest. I wish I could. I should have kept it in the memory banks for the show, but he says, I lived in a communist country like this. He had this strong accent. And he says, I know exactly what they are showing here. I did this. I lived this, what they are showing. And the piece that was in Shen Yun was actually a piece that they quite often show where a Falun Gong practitioner is dragged off to the jail. He or she absolutely refuses to sign this ridiculous repentance form that the communist regime is forcing them to sign while being tortured. Repentance for practicing Falun Gong. And so because they don't sign the repentance form and agree to go around demonizing Falun Gong, they have their organs harvested. Now, to anyone of you watching right now who's never heard of it, that may sound unbelievably not doable. But of course, every humanitarians association and most media around the world have already reported that this is happening, that the regime is doing this on a very, very mass scale. We don't talk figures anymore because they can't actually get correct figures from the regime, because the regime still is denying, even after 25 years or more, that they're doing it to Falun Gong practitioners. So of course, but it is massive amounts of innocent men and women like you and me. So having this man come up and say this to me, this old man from an obvious communist-run country, and actually point at one of these scenes in his description to me and say that he knows exactly what they do. Incredible stuff. It allows you to truly realize sometimes that unless we truly start to expose this thing that's happening in our world, what else can possibly stop this kind of horrendous thinking this horrendous communist way. And if any of you know your history with communism, obviously, it's been horrific pretty much wherever it's gone. So that was outstanding. Of course, I've made it sound very serious, and I'm sorry about that. But in actual fact, the production is stunningly beautiful, and we'd like to play you the trailer from this year. Have a real good look at what the production entails. Have a look at this.
A performance that truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. See it at least once in your lifetime. Shen Yun. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
There you go. And like one of the things that I've had being in security, it's quite cool because when people at intermission come out, so many people want to talk to you for some reason. But so often I have men and women, quite a lot of them young, more like around the 20, 25-year-old sort of age, who will say things to me like, do you have any idea what it's like or what you've got to go through to be able to achieve what they do on stage? And they'll just be like, this is incredible. This is incredible. Their timing, their synchronicity, their abilities, everything is just completely incredible. So worth seeing. So from Louis and I, go and see this thing. It is so worthwhile. Of course, it's not cheap. You're not going to go there on $25 tickets. We're talking about the highest caliber production of its kind in the world. And pretty much all the theatre companies, from ballet to opera to everything else, are looking at Shen Yun now as awe-inspiring. So well and truly go and see it. Now, look, we promised you that one of the things we'd like to do is bring into the show the kind of videos on YouTube and wherever else that we find, or that other Falun Dafa practitioners like ourselves send to us and ask if we can put them on the show. These are the videos that we talked about that are anti-Falun Gong, anti-Shen Yun. And we showed you on a previous episode the interviews that have been done to show that the CCP really is ramping up the level of and the intensity of its persecution on Falun Dafa and Shen Yun around the world. So one of the ways they do it, and one of the ways they've really started to push hard, is getting Western influencers and bloggers and all these kinds of people to do anti-Shen Yun and anti-Falun Dafa shows, to join basically that element of propaganda. Now, look, who knows how they do it? To be honest, if I was a CCP person, it would be the easiest thing in the world for me, with a nice big budget, to go to one of these, influencers and say to them, listen, we have this problem with this thing. What we'd really like to do is have the Western people know about it, to help them avoid it or whatever. And look, we'd really love to show our appreciation with whatever, whether it be, who knows, straight cash or tickets to whatever, or we'd love to help you with your show to actually make it bigger. These are the ways, if I was CCP, I'd go about doing it. And it's so easy, especially when you have a nice big wallet to go do it with. So what we'd like to do is Louis is going to take over and take you through one of the videos that was sent to us. And Louis and I'll just have a chat about it with you, because quite a few of the things that this person brings up are so completely off the mark of the beauty of this Buddhist practice, and also just the complete opposite end of the universe to this practice. So it's important that we kind of just quickly illustrate how that works. Louis, take it away, brother.
So this is the video I'll probably show you a little bit of. It's he's actually a really funny YouTuber called Papa Meat.
I actually like the guy. I like the guy.
Oh yeah. I actually, apart from everything that he got wrong, I really enjoyed the video. I thought it was really well done. But and
what's the name of it, Louis?
his channel is called Papa Meat. The video is
Papa
called
Meat.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just.
Yeah, so I don't know, I'm not going to say he's been paid off by the CCP or anything, but he's obviously seen the New York Times, their recent articles about Falun Gong and Shen Yun, which we've talked a bit about. And yeah, obviously that's painted for him like a picture that's Falun Dafa as this weird cult with weird beliefs. So we'll just show you a few things and we'll have a bit of a chat. But at the same time, like he's not 100% certain, you know, about what he's reading. He's got a few moments in this video where he's like, "Oh yeah, I can't want to see the show." Like,
yeah, it's like he wants to see the show.
Oh, it doesn't seem that bad. So
okay,
obviously
so
the propaganda is not that, it's not that powerful, but obviously it's important for us to clarify what the New York Times is getting wrong and where it's misleading people, because yeah, it's just totally not right.
Shen Yun has a YouTube channel where they upload interviews with audience members exiting the show, often with people explaining how they believe the show is divine, with some being reduced to tears.
God, I need to see this show.
I do too, man. There might be a world where I go up and I'm like watching some Chinese pageantry and I just start weeping. Maybe it's because I'm afraid. No. Stop flipping.
Yeah, so yeah, like what we just said about the interviews, there's some awesome people's genuine feelings coming out of the show. And if you haven't seen the show, it might seem a bit far out, like, oh, it's divine. What does that mean? How could a show be divine? But yeah, I highly recommend seeing it.
Just quickly on this one too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but one of the guys in there is a famous actor. He's not the only famous actor. Like, we have people literally from every spectrum of society, both religious, whether they're Christian, Catholic, Buddhist, whatever they may be, actors, and many of the people that you'll see on the interviews, they're highly trained, highly skilled, or entrepreneurs, or you know, people who well and truly know what they're looking at. You know, the one of the videos that we will show you in the episode that was supposed to be part one has a young Chinese man do a complete slur. Oh, I mean, complete slur of Shen Yun, Mr. Li Hongzhi, the founder of Falun Dafa, and do it in such a way that is almost mind-numbing. It was just, I wish the video wasn't playing up on Ganjing World, but you'll see it on YouTube. Apparently it's playing well on YouTube. So this is actually a very good indication of all of the beauty that these practitioners who first made Shen Yun are bringing is just so encompassing. It's not about, you know, everyone's gone unless they're Falun Gong practitioners or blah, 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 blah. Not at all. So just wanted to make that really clear. If I were you guys, I'd go and have a look at it. It might just blow your mind. Sorry, Lou. Go ahead.
That's all good. Yeah, so here he's going to start talking about Falun Dafa.
This is where things get a little strange. If Chinamen getting beaten, dragged through the streets wasn't strange. In 1999, when Li Hongzhi, who was the guy who started the was living in America, he was interviewed by the Time magazine. In it, we start to see the more bizarre and mysterious side of the religion's creator. Early on in the formation of Falun Gong, it appeared that the exercises and meditation used to harness one's qi was intended for more than just physical health and spiritual growth. Li Hongzhi promised that these teachings could lead to enlightenment, which in turn unlocked supernatural powers.
I don't know, man. If you want to start on me, that's just like, whoa. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, he's right. The teaching of Falun Dafa is more than about health. It does have that spiritual aspect that is related to the Buddhist school, which we often talk about, which is, that path towards enlightenment, something bigger than what we know in our everyday life. And that kind of religious concept has existed for a long, long time. And not just Falun Dafa or Buddhism, but Christianity, or they call it different things, but it's a similar kind of concept. Yeah.
Well, for my part, first of all, he talks about when Falun Gong first came out, it was all about qi. That's complete rubbish. It was never about qi. Actually, Teacher Lee, throughout the entire teachings, talks about how the actual path of cultivation is to develop Gong, which is a higher energy matter or source. And that may sound like, oh, energy. But if you ask any quantum physicist about what energy is like within our bodies, it's beyond belief. It's absolutely beyond belief. And that's a quantum physicist, a person who only uses modern day scientific principles to investigate things. And even what he says is off the Richter scale. With any spiritual practice like Falun Gong, naturally, the teaching allows you to understand that you as a human being are incredibly special, and that the moral character in a person is incredibly important. It's these are cornerstones of the proper spiritual practices: Catholicism, Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, etc., Falun Gong. So when he actually just completely gets things wrong, saying that Falun Gong started as Qi, and then the founder all of a sudden started to talk about supernormal abilities and Gong and enlightenment, using the word enlightenment like it's some kind of, you'd have to be crazy to even think about the word enlightenment, which naturally, for anyone who has never thought about spiritual progress or cultivation or practice, that thing just sounds like it's totally off the Richter scale. But to most of us in the world, naturally, we completely understand that enlightenment is simply the path of a person's spiritual ascension as they're actually cultivating spirituality in the world. And so taking what is the most ancient and has been taught for thousands of years aspects and turning them completely on their heads as though their rubbish don't exist, and to even mention them is garbage. And when it comes to supernormal abilities, this is one of the biggest parts that he gets wrong. When you look at the teaching of Falun Gong, Teacher Lee is constantly saying, in one form or another, do not get to the point where you just cultivate for supernormal abilities, or you're going to have this supernormal ability soon, won't you? Simply because you're in Falun Gong. He actually teaches the opposite. He constantly cornerstones the spiritual, moral character as the essential part of what we as Falun Dafa practitioners have to cultivate in order to spiritually ascend or come anywhere near enlightenment. So he actually cornerstones that constantly and teaches quite thoroughly about how people who get carried away with any kind of supernormal ability that they do experience can actually falter very, very quickly and literally throw away their whole cultivation. So again, if you watch these things like we're showing you right now, this is the part that I believe really allows you to understand Falun Gong genuinely, and therefore all of this stuff that the Chinese government or anyone else does to either entertain, make money, or actually try to demonize Falun Gong will just be useless, because there are millions of us, as in Falun Gong practitioners around the world, who are all just out here with you to try to help you not to be taken in by such rubbish. And like I said, I actually like this kid. He's incredibly entertaining. And as Louis said, I don't really think the CCP came and paid him money to do this, because as you'll see by it, if you watch it, he actually says a couple of times, actually, this all sounds really good to me. He really does, and he says it quite genuinely. And so they wouldn't have given him the money anyway. They probably would have threatened him to do a much worse episode. Anyway, sorry, Louis, go ahead.
That's all good. Yeah, one he brings up here as well, like about he doesn't quite understand the health benefits, and as if it's what Li Hongzhou was saying is kind of luring old people into the practice to give them health benefits or promises of renewed youth or whatever. I think that's not really how it is. If you want to look yourself, and even from our own interviews, the benefits are pretty clear. And even if I did a search on the Minghui website, which is the Falun Dafa website, a couple of weeks ago, just for health benefits, and these are individual stories from practitioners, and there was like, I don't know, 30,000 different articles with the words health benefits in there, and that's just on one website. So obviously there's some pretty profound effects from practicing this Falun Dafa. Here, it begins to get into like kind of some of the claims from the New York Times articles about Shen Yun, and how Shen Yun dancers are kind of treated in the practice in Dragon Springs doing their training and that kind of thing. Yeah, so we'll give that one a play.
You know, in 2024, the New York Times released a nuclear expose that unveiled how cult-like the Falun Gong really is. Similar to most cults, they have their own scheduled living area, in this case, a 400-acre compound in New York City named Dragon Springs. They have to be there.
They're providing free housing.
They're providing free housing in New York during these difficult times, but you do have to be there. That's a little dicey. Here, the performers live and train under abusive conditions. Former dancers explain that they were constantly pushed to their mental and physical limits, sometimes working 15 hours a day. And let me remind you, it's a cult, so there's no pay, zero pay, 15 hours of physical training every day.
So there's a few things there, which was also kind of covered in the other video, but it doesn't hurt to share it again. So he talks about the Dragon Springs temple and the training facility being a kind of a compound or a complex where they have to be there. Yeah, it's a school. It's a dance school. It's a school for young kids to learn traditional culture and traditional Chinese dance. And I believe a number of them do stay there. But they're not forced to stay there, and they're certainly not they're not manipulated to be there. I think obviously a lot of their parents probably would love them to be part of Shen Yun, and I think if you're an aspiring dance artist, then you'd probably love to be part of Shen Yun as well. And the part about no pay and very harsh conditions, I think that's also well, the harsh bit, I'm sure it's quite challenging training to be a Shen Yun dancer. If you've seen what they're capable of, you don't just get that with no hard work or training or effort. So I think the amount of hardship that goes into that kind of training regime is definitely admirable, and it's a positive thing, especially when you see how uplifting and beautiful Shen Yun actually is, and the kind of moral culture that the whole performance gives us, or gives anyone when they watch it. So it's just because somebody's suffering doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Obviously there has to be some level of compassion there, but based on the actual reports from more than a few disgruntled dancers, which the New York Times chose to focus on, the reports are from Fei Tian Academy that most of the time, if not all the time, their dancers are treated really well. The ones that don't get paid are doing their kind of training, but the full-time dancers are definitely paid, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. I think once again, we're looking at why, for example, the New York Times is doing what it's doing. Why are they deciding to look at a group of people who are Falun Dafa practitioners, who have created something in the world? Because they do the same with the Chinese Falun Dafa practitioners who in America created an independent media. They're looking at any Falun Dafa practitioners who have escaped China and have created something. And remembering, there are a lot of quite wealthy Chinese people, including Falun Dafa practitioners. I've known quite a few Falun Dafa practitioners who are actually very, very wealthy. They're very wealthy businessmen and women. And why are these media targeting Falun Dafa practitioners and the things that they have created after escaping persecution from China? More directly, the Chinese government. Why are those media doing that? Just those particular media, by the way. This is just simply so obvious and straightforward, especially when I don't know, when it started maybe 10 or 15 years ago, when we all started to realize through all of the true information that was coming out, we all started to realize that media is simply a business. And anyone who owns that business, their decision on things, their decision on what they want to do with that media is up to them. It's not like the government has requirements on them to report true or truth. If any media wants to begin to report news in a way that is slanderous towards others in a very twisted way, they can do it. They're not getting thrown in jail, no. So with the New York Times, this is what they're doing, what Louis just described. The amount of work and just plain guts it took for these Falun Dafa practitioners, these Chinese people who had escaped persecution, to create the media entities, this incredible theatrical production. The amount of sheer guts it took for them to go through the last more than a decade and continue to make things that are now seen as very professional. The Epoch Times is seen as very professional. Of course, there's quite a lot of Falun Dafa practitioners like myself who give their time free of charge to these media. And also, for example, Louis and I didn't charge Shen Yun to go and do security and do the interview work. Why? Why didn't we charge them? Why do we give our time free of charge? Well, you might have worked it out because they're absolutely beautiful entities in our world that our fellow Falun Dafa practitioners have created with every bit of virtue and hustle and guts. A lot of them put a lot of their own money into it to begin the creation of it. Why wouldn't you support it? Why wouldn't it be part? For us, in a way, it's a part of our humanitarian's work because we know these productions, we know these media. The world knows them now and are absolutely loving them for it. So to be affiliated to these things is actually a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. With Shen Yun, it's like an honor to be affiliated with this thing. When I tell people that have seen Shen Yun that they let me go and do security for free, they trust me to do that, they're like, wow, that's incredible. And the reason is because of that. Anything that can help Shen Yun to get to more people, to tell more people about this horrific genocide that the Chinese government's doing on Falun Dafa, tell more people how beautiful the traditional moral nature is and how beautiful traditional Chinese culture is before communism just basically spent a decade destroying it in China. Anything that does that, I will give my heart to in that way because it is absolutely what we need in our world. We need so many more things that bring back the traditional principles that we had not even 50 or 60 years ago. So many of us, so many more of the society were living on very beautiful traditional principles. And here I'm not saying that we haven't done wrong as a society. Of course, there's just been terrible things, terrible warps of nature that we've had through our society that has put a lot of hurt and pain and bitterness into us. But I am absolutely convinced, and I've seen it in my own family and in so many other places in the world, that the traditional principles, like shown on Shen Yun, the forgiveness, the kindness, the ability to see our own wrongdoing and think, no, that's wrong. I can do better than that. I'll be a better person than that. That's the stuff we need in our world. And that's why Louis and I, naturally, we spend our wherever we can. And whenever Shen Yun calls for it, we try to help wherever we can. So anyway, that's my brief on why you'll find, for example, in Shen Yun with the dancers, and like Louis has mentioned, half of what the guy's spoken about from the New York Times report is just twisted rubbish. Being a professional dancer is one of the hardest things a human being will ever do in their lives. I was a personal trainer. I've trained dancers, not to dance, but within their strength training. I've heard their agony. But the heart they have to dance is unstoppable because they know dance is like this incredible expression of the human entity. Dance and song, sound and movement. And so everything that's in Shen Yun, in this beautiful facility they built, is absolutely beautiful, including the Shen Yun dancers, including the staff. Sure, there's going to be a few people that get disgruntled. But in actual fact, if you look at any of the major businesses of the world, especially something as huge as a massive theatrical production, even if you're like me with just I only run a small business with about 5 or 6 men, to keep everyone happy all the time is nearly an impossible task because there's always something that we're complaining about. Oh, I was told that I've got too much body fat and I'm persecuted. But have you seen professional dancers? They're like this. Because you've got to be. If it's not something that you wish to do, if it's not something that you feel you can achieve, whether it be the splits and the inverted splits or whatever, then it's okay. It's not your profession. But some men and women in there, musicians as well, occasionally they get very disgruntled because of those kinds of aspects. Go ahead and read their disgruntlements about it if you can find the original manuscripts that the New York Times went and got from them, pinpointing just those few people to make out like everyone's tortured or treated horrifically in there, no one's paid, etc., etc. This is how you demonize something. You just twist everything. Anyway, once again, I'm on my soapbox. Let's have a look at the next one, Liz.
Thanks, Michael.
You're like, I'm just going to be in debt for the rest of my life. What the fuck is this? As horrible as these conditions were, performers had drunk the Falun Gong Kool-Aid, believing that they needed to give a flawless performance because Shen Yun and its teachings would save the audience from the impending apocalypse. Don't forget about the alien stuff we said. We're talking a lot about the Chinese government stuff. They still thought that the alien invasion's happening, all right? That's still very much a threat.
I love the fact that this guy's got guts constantly in the background. It's like,
Yeah, it must be his thing. Sorry.
Real meat.
The sun's
Okay, so what do we say about that bit?
Yeah, we spoke a bit about it on the last episode, and we've kind of alluded to it here as well. It's not so much about an impending apocalypse, but we've been talking about morality and how Shen Yun is helping share stories of traditional morality and spirituality and traditional paths like Falun Dafa or Buddhism kind of offer a path to enlightenment and being saved. That's the kind of words that these old texts use, like saving sentient beings is often used in Falun Dafa. And so I guess he's highlighting here that the Shen Yun dances, their purpose on stage is like to provide this, like these kind of glimpses of this. And I guess going back to the first little bit we looked at with those interviews, like people coming out of the performance saying, oh, this is divine, like that's why, because all these dancers also cultivate Falun Dafa, and they follow these principles of truthfulness, compassion, tolerance, which is, well, we believe are like divine principles. So when you see these very highly skilled dancers on stage who cultivate this Buddhist way, you can kind of feel the energy of that practice come through, as well as feel the beauty of what they're doing on stage. And of course he's mentioning aliens, but
Again.
But the saving people has nothing to do with aliens.
Well, who knows? Maybe they're really nice. I don't know. All right. Well, Louis, that was beautifully put. To be honest, that really wraps it up. The only thing I'll add is the woman that you see there at the moment on the screen. She's a lady from America, and she is a wonderful woman. Any of you ever meet her? Quite an amazing lady. I think she's married to another practitioner named Zenon. And the part where he's talking about the impending apocalypse. That's right. I think that's the use of his words. Now, oh man, everyone from Elon Musk
Yeah.
to the media to scientists looking at the state of our globe's sort of functioning. Everyone's talking about how messed up our world is, whether it be between husbands and wives, siblings, the Earth's rotation, the society, different countries. Everyone's talking about how messed up everything is. And all of you watching will know that all of the religions that have been around for squillions of years, even scriptures that were found even before our civilizations. And of course, China's civilization is the oldest, maybe right next to Indian. But all have spoken about this time period being a very, very tough one. And the thing that I very much respect, and it's one of the aspects of when I first read Zhuan Falun, which is the teaching of the cultivation way of Falun Gong. Teacher Li brings it up, but won't go through it. He just brings it up as everyone's talked about this. Everyone's brought this up. And merely speaks a few lines or writes. Zhuan Falun is the book, but you can actually watch Teacher Li's actual 9-day lecture in China, the original ones back in 93 or whatever, 92, on the website, falundafa.org. He just, from what I remember and in my words, speaks about, have a look at how everything is. You know, we're in such a state of societal decline in so many ways. Everyone's against each other. He basically just says, there may be some truth to it, you know, like in my words, because going into it and talking about the aspects of this and that, and, you know, this is going to happen there or whatever, is actually, to me, in my understanding now, after some 21 years of spiritual cultivation in Falun Dafa, going into all of the nitty-gritty of what may happen or what has already happened or what is happening at the moment, it's useless. It's absolutely useless. Because absolutely everyone, from the hippie movement of the 60s and 70s, all the way through till now, have just been saying, love is the answer. Love is the answer. Flower power, etc., etc. Maybe a few of the things that they spoke about were a little too worldly. You know, everyone make love and everything will be solved. No. But everyone knows, and even scientists have proven, that the energy of kindness and benevolence has a particular power on ourselves and everything around us. The energy of hatred, sorrow, depression, bitterness, all of this maddening desire for monetary wealth or whatever, material wealth, etc., has another energy, and it is incredibly destructive. This is very much 1 + 1 = 2. And when it comes down to it, the answers are very much found in true teachings of spiritual nature, because they all draw people back to looking within, finding those elements of ourselves that have really gone terribly wrong in our morality, and adjusting ourselves, which is actually incredibly difficult, not something everybody wants to do, especially to a divine capacity. But it is a very big answer to healing our world and our relationships as a society, countries, and in our own families. So, although that may sound too simple, one of the other things I found with Falun Gong is that everything that Teacher Li says, some of it incredibly profound, but incredibly simple, to the point of just, you're left sitting there, just like Louis in our first episode described, you're left sitting there actually feeling that simple and profound line that you just read or paragraph is actually doing something inside of your heart and mind. It's actually doing something. Simplicity doesn't mean powerless. In actual fact, the most beautiful things I've found in simplicity are more powerful than I could have ever thought. And I've watched them manifest in front of me. I've watched the beauty of my son, my wife, fellow practitioners. And then we can bring that around to health. Think about it. If it's that powerful in just the mind aspect, think about the effect it has on the health of a cell or an atom or a nuclei or a quark, if any of you know much about science. All of those things are affected, but by the most powerful and simple spiritual aspects. So that's, to me, what this young man is talking about in this video is just gobbledygook. It's quite entertaining, very funny. I really like him. And I actually think if any of us were to meet him, there'd be plenty of beautiful qualities in that man. But what he's making is just a gobbledygook show on something that's become a very big topic in our world, which is Falun Dafa and Shen Yun. So, and that's what sells. That's what, gets people subscribing to a show, just like us. We hope you guys actually subscribe and keep coming back and watching more so we can help, really sometimes unravel the knots and the rubbish that are being made out there. Anyway, again, a very big soapbox. Thank you for listening.
That's okay, Michael. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Have we got any more bits?
Yeah, there's one more bit we can
let's
highlight.
do it.
Yeah.
Similar to many cults, a fear of the outside world was instilled in those living in Dragon Springs. People would not be granted permission to visit their families often, pressured to live on the complex until adulthood. They're swooping them up as basically children, teenagers, children, whatever, not allowing them to see their family, and then they're basically indoctrinated into this way of living, being completely also isolated from the family. So the Shen Yun cult becomes their family. Those who
I don't even know what to say to that. I think we've already said it all, to be honest.
We've kind of covered that already.
This is really just OTT now. I'll tell you what, I'll just simply say, if you watch any of the footage from the dancers, maybe two things. Shen Yun as a company is incredibly transparent. Incredibly transparent. Every time it's been investigated by some cockamamie, well, actually, no, there haven't been many yet, but I'm sure there'll be more. Every time it's been investigated, they'll bring up things about tax evasion, or they'll bring up things about not getting building permits. I remember that was one of them. Things about how terribly treated the dancers are, or they're not paid, or they're whatever. Every time Shen Yun just opens up like a big old flower. Come and investigate us. Come and have a chat to our dancers. Come and have a chat to our physicians who are paid to come and look after our dancers, all of their needs, ailments, etc. Every time that happens is because, like I said, with a media that has a specific purpose behind it, when they go and try to demonize something, normally what they're trying to demonize will shut itself completely and not let itself be open. But Shen Yun just opens up because, for example, the practice of Falun Dafa is just so open. Li Hongzhi even made it that there had to be a government approved association of Falun Dafa made in every country, so that the practice itself was legitimate and open. Shen Yun is exactly the same. Falun Dafa does exactly the same thing. It's because it's nothing for these media to do what they're doing. They just do it. They do it for whatever reason behind the scenes that they're doing it. But it's also nothing for us to be completely open, like Louis and I are doing on this show, and just allow complete transparency for you guys to see, or for the ATO of America, the tax office. I don't know what it's called in America, to be honest, the tax office, or the building people, or the this and that. And, to go in and just see everything and go, this is a complete load of garbage, what's being reported about you. In actual fact, one of the interviews on the Epoch Times American Thought Leaders show, American Thought Leaders, some of the CCP people who have been trying to use the legal systems to sue, I think it's Shen Yun, quite often. They just keep pushing. Because obviously the Chinese government still to a degree, I think, is very, very wealthy. They just keep suing and suing. They get these new people to go and sue Shen Yun. They get those new people to go and sue Shen Yun. And just recently, one group has done it so much that the courts just, and they don't very often do this, blanketed them. No more. You cannot, you cannot bring this to the, to the courts anymore, no matter what level you bring it to, because every time they do it, it's just gobbledygook garbage that they're bringing up, and the courts just throw them out. But they keep doing it and doing it. And I'll tell you, from my understanding, it's because the CCP is being exposed constantly for their horrific genocide of over 100 million innocent Chinese people who are practicing Falun Gong in China. And they know that their own country, if you've done the kind of studies Louis and I have done, if you've looked into and investigated what's actually going on in China at the hands of a very wealthy communist regime, it is disturbing, to say the least, because you know that the communist regime is running China into the ground, literally deep into the ground. They also know that, and I'm speaking about it in very broad and plain terms, but please do your own investigation. The Chinese government also knows that with all these Falun Gong practitioners like Louis up there and me running around as much as they can trying to tell the truth about what they've done to Falun Gong, and they've got Shen Yun, and they've got the Epoch Times telling the truth about it all, there's no chance for them. There's no chance for them to counter this truth. There's no chance for them to all of a sudden seem like a shining political group ever again, because they've just done the worst evil thing imaginable on our planet. And so they will do anything with their remaining wealth to try to bring down all of the areas in the world that keep telling the truth about it. So they will do anything to bring down Falun Gong. They will do anything to bring down Shen Yun, and they will do anything to bring down the Epoch Times. That's as simple as it gets. And like I say, please do your own investigation, but be careful out there, because as we're showing, there is so much online now that is out there from the Chinese government and from the entities that are working with the Chinese government, that you could get led down the garden path, literally in 3 reports. So this is, again, why we're doing this with everyone. Now, look, I hope that this episode has done what Louis and I are intending with this show, with every episode, to let you know that Falun Gong practitioners are pretty cool, actually. We're just like you. We're people who are doing the best that we can in life. And at the same time, though, because we practice Falun Dafa, every single day we're looking within with those beautiful Buddhist divine principles to see how we ourselves can do better in our character and our heart and mind moral nature. That actually makes our worlds pretty nice, because it elicits all of the things that Louis and I have spoken about in previous episodes, and helps you to understand clearly what's going on with the Chinese government and why there's a few media who are crazily, like, you got to ask yourself the question again, why are they targeting this? Why are they doing that? You probably find behind the scenes the owners and the people who pull the strings there. Wow, I hate to say it, but I feel sorry for them in some ways, because I know some entities, big companies, that have been doing big business with that terrible regime, the CCP, for so long, and now the regime is coming to them to get some favors back. Everyone, look, Louis and I leave you for today. Thank you for spending time with us, and I truly hope you enjoy your time with us. Also, I wanted to mention something. Our shows, yes, they're very natural. And Louis will tell you, as much as I do, we just strap this thing together because we want everything to be just from our hearts. We don't want to have scripted this and scripted that and perfect looking videos and all this stuff. We want two real people with real experiences just being there with you. But we'd really like it if you guys could share our videos. Share them. Share them to your neighbor, to the girls who are part of your badminton club. Share them to the guy next door you go four-wheel driving with. Because literally one of our episodes, I feel, even just one or two of our episodes really help set things straight, set things right. Because we give you quite a lot of information, and hopefully we also share with you and talk to you in a way that is easy to listen to. And like I said, get to us, write us questions, leave them in the comments. Actually, Louis and I just looked at the latest comment before we jumped on the show and did this show. So, please do that so that you can start to interact with us as well. We'd love it. We'd absolutely love it. And for you to reach more people with this, even if you happen to be someone, from other media who just get onto the show and think, wow, these guys are cool, and just share it to your own networks. Great, do it. Because the more we can get this out there, the better. We're not some kind of wealthy elite government organization that has 1,000 people under their belt that do propaganda all day. But that's what we're up against, So please do so. And it was lovely being here with you. We love coming in on these episodes and just showing you guys all kinds of stuff and being with you all. So have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Louis. See you guys.